the organization of the human body. This four-part series on the human body attempts to explain the specific characteristics and mechanisms of the human body that make it a living being. This video is part 1 in the series. Introduction. The life of the human body requires not only that individual organ systems do their jobs, but also that these organ systems work hand in hand with each other. They must share information. Their actions must be interdependent. The cells within an organ or a tissue often shares information, and certainly the individual cells must act in concert to perform the proper function of the organ or tissue. In fact, cells in one organ must often share information with cells in another organ and make decisions that are appropriate for the health of the individual cell as well as for the health of the whole person. In most cases, the sharing of information between organs and between cells takes place at the level of atoms or molecules. Cell-to-cell messengers or intracellular messengers may be as simple as hydrogen ion, positive ions, or potassium or calcium ions. The messengers may also be more complex chemicals. A cell may release a molecule that acts on a neighboring cell or that enters the bloodstream and acts on other cells a great distance away. In other cases, a neuron, that is a nerve cell, may send an axon, that is the nerve fiber, a long slender projection from a nerve cell, a centimeter or even a meter away and rapidly modulate through a neurotransmitter molecule, that is chemical messengers like acetylcholine, the activity of another cell or another organ. Dear listeners, by the way, this educational video is made possible by PrescribeOn, the makers of e-prescription software for digital prescriptions available freely for doctors on the website www.prescribeon.com. Doctors who are interested in this e-prescription can freely avail of its vast collection of more than 100,000 e-prescriptions. Now, coming back to the discussion, cells and organs must interact with one another, and the method of communication is almost always molecular. The grand organizer, the master that controls the molecules, the cells, and the organs and the way they interact, is the genome, that is genetic makeup of the cell residing in its nucleus with its epigenetic modifications. Note, epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads a DNA sequence. Genetics deals with the genes and gene function, whereas epigenetics deal with gene regulation. To be more specific, genetics focuses on how the DNA sequences lead to changes in the cell, while epigenetics focuses on how DNA is regulated to achieve these changes. How cells function. The anatomical elements, the cells and organ systems, live together in harmony inside the body, that is interior environment. The cells communicate directly through gap junctions or indirectly by molecules transferred to and from the extracellular fluid. These molecules can bind to receptors on the cell membrane and initiate multiple signal transfers that can modify gene transcription, that is, a genomic response, and a wide range of other cell functions. Alternatively, these molecules can bind to receptors in the cytoplasm or nucleus and alter the transcription, that is, copying of genes. The plasma membrane, that is the outermost layer of a cell, separates and controls the interior of the cell from outside influences, that is the interstitial fluid, the fluid between the cells. The plasma membrane also sets up ion, that is the elements like calcium, potassium and sodium in their ionic state, and electrical voltage differences, that is electrical gradients. Excitable cells, mainly nerve and muscle cells, can exploit these electrical gradients for the long distance electrical transmission of information. The nervous system exploits this excitability to process information. Different systems protects the body from adverse external environments like the cardiovascular system, the respiratory system, the urinary system, the gastrointestinal system, and the endocrine system to create and maintain a constant internal environment. What is a living thing? Four fundamental properties distinguish the living body. First, only living organisms exchange matter and energy with the environment to continue their existence. Several organ systems of the body participate in these exchanges. Second, living organisms can receive signals from their environment and react accordingly. The principles of sensory perception, processing by the nervous system, and reactions to the sensory perception are means to achieve it. Third, the life cycle of growth and reproduction. Finally, the living organism adapts to changing circumstances. Living is the result of multiple control systems. Hunger makes us seek food and fear makes us seek refuge. Sensations of cold makes us look for warmth. Other forces cause us to seek fellowship and to reproduce. The fact that we are sensing, feeling, and knowledgeable beings is part of this automatic sequence of life. These special attributes allow us to exist under widely varying conditions that otherwise would make life impossible. Human physiology integrates multiple functions of the cells, tissues, and organs into the functions of the living human being. The integration requires communication and coordination by a vast array of control systems that operate at every level, from the genes that program synthesis of molecules to the complex nervous and hormonal systems that coordinate functions of cells, tissues, and organs throughout the body. Thus, the coordinated functions of the human body are much more than the sum of its parts, and life in health as well as in disease states relies on this total function. Cells are the living units of the body. The basic living unit of the body is the cell. Humans are complex organisms made up of trillions of cells, each with their own structure and function. There are about 30 trillion cells. 1 trillion is 1000 billion in the human body. The number of bacterial cells in the human body likely exceeds the number of human cells. There are about 200 different types of cells in the body. Here are just a few examples: red blood cells, erythrocytes, skin cells, neurons, that is nerve cells, fat cells. Humans are multicellular complex organisms. The cells inside our bodies are specialized. This means that each type of cell performs a unique and special function. For this reason, each of the 200 different types of cells in the body has a different structure, size, shape, and function, and contains different organelles. For example, cells in the brain may be longer in shape so that they can transmit signals more efficiently. There are roughly 171 billion cells in the average male brain, including about 86 billion neurons, which are cells that help transmit signals throughout the brain. There are also 85 billion other cells in the brain called glial cells that help support the neurons. Cells of the heart have more mitochondria because they need a lot of energy. Note, mitochondria are concerned with converting nutrients into energy needed for survival. Cells in the respiratory system are responsible for taking up oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. Size of the cell. Female egg cell at about 0.12 to 0.14 millimeters, that is 120 to 140 micrometer in size, and about 10,000 times larger than sperm cells. In diameter, the largest cell is the female egg cell. It is big enough to be just barely visible with the naked eye. In humans, they are several times larger than a typical body cell. 20 to 30 micrometer is the average body cell size, and about 10,000 times larger than sperm cells. There is a reason why egg cells or oocytes are so big. They have to store enough nutrients in the cytoplasm to support a growing embryo after fertilization. That is, till placenta takes over the supply of nutrients and other substances. Plus, mitochondria numerous to power all of that growth. Mitochondria in an average human cell is 100. Mitochondria in a female egg cell 100,000 to 600,000. Mitochondria in a human sperm 50 to 75. Sperms. The smallest human cells, on the other hand, are sperms. At least if you count the cell body without the flagella, that is the tail. Sperm measure about 60 micrometer, that is 0.06 millimeters, including the tail, and the head is 5 micrometer long and 3 micrometer wide. Each month, only one mature egg cell is produced, compared to 3 trillion mature sperm cells each month, that is 100 million sperms produced in each day. Nerve cell. The longest cells in the human body are nerve cells. Their projection, the axon, can be up to 1 meter long. Cooperation, coordination, and localized controlled freedom of governance. All the cells work together to keep the human body running efficiently. Most, but not all, cells in the body will eventually die and need to be replaced. Fortunately, a healthy human body is capable of maintaining a precise balance between the number of cells produced and the number of cells that die. For example, as the body is producing about 200 billion red blood cells per day, roughly the same number of RBCs are dying off. Longevity of the cell. Cells are not created equal when it comes to the length of their life cycles. For example, white blood cells only live for about 13 days, whereas red blood cells live for about 120 days. Liver cells, on the other hand, can live up to 18 months. Cells in the brain or heart will stay alive throughout a person's life. So, dear viewers, this is the end of part 1 in the 4-part series on organization of the human body in the Medicine for Common Man series. Thank you for watching.